is Roun, and I'm a therapist, a mental health therapist, and I'm also a PhD student at the University of Minnesota. I first started with a bookstore when they were back on the University of Minnesota camp, like near the campus. And then once they moved over here, I first started out as like a customer buying books, and then I learned that they were offering classes, so I was able to take the Hadith class with Sheikha Tamara. But then we also started attending things for the kids as well. So it grew from just me benefiting to the kids also benefiting. So we do like the toddler music time, and then we do children's story time. And there was a play last month that they participated in. So alhamdulillah, we've all been able to benefit. It's sort of this like hub of goodness, I would say. So there's like the bookstore aspect, but it's so much more than a bookstore. There's classes that are offered, there's space, there's just an opportunity to connect with your deen within a community is what I would say. And that's what I found here, is a community to sort of help facilitate my own connection with the deen, to support me in that growth. And I think that's something that is very special that is offered here. Sort of this community of sisters growing together to get closer to Allah. And the benefit of doing that under female scholarship, that's something that a lot of people don't have access to, and that's something that, alhamdulillah, I'm so grateful for Sheikha Tamara and all the teachers here to be able to learn and to sit under women scholars. I think that is something that I will forever be grateful for. There are a lot of places where you can seek knowledge and be in the remembrance of Allah. And I think this is just an added bonus to that, to be in a space for women, by women. Again, that's just like, that's a gem, I feel like, a gift, a mercy from Allah that was given to us. To be able to come here as you are to learn about Islam, I think is what makes this place special. To know that like I can come here and take classes with other women and be taught by a woman, I think is something very special. Ever since like growing up, we would go to like weekend school to learn about deen. I've always had male teachers, and then as I got older, like seeking knowledge, it was always under a male teacher. I didn't have access to a female teacher. And then I started attending halaqas, and then I would have a female teacher here and there. But to now have access to a sheikha, like that's something I've never had before in my life. And then to see my daughters be able to, as they're young, have access to a sheikha to connect and to learn is a blessing and a mercy. So that's something that unfortunately I didn't have. And you know, as you're watching lectures and as you're attending like the masjid, there's a lot of male-dominated spaces, whether that's intentional or unintentional. So to have a female-dominated space and to learn from a sheikha, and to be able to ask the questions that maybe you're not so comfortable asking a male scholar, and to be able to do that is something amazing. Being here, I've been able to learn not only my deen and to have that connection, but to learn different ways to connect with the deen, to learn different ways to praise and learn about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I've learned about female companions, female scholars. I have access to books about female scholars, and this was knowledge that was not readily available to me before. So to know that I have, you know, there's a lot of pious predecessors that are women, and that we have this long line of knowledge and female scholarship, that is something that I benefited. And I think that helps strengthen my connection to know that as a woman, I also have space in the deen. And as a woman, there are a lot of acts of worship that are in my day-to-day life that Allah has bestowed upon us and has made a mercy for us, that I think before that knowledge was not available to me. So to know that even as my role as a wife, as a mother, like these are things that can also be an acts of worship with the right intention. I just have a very big love for this space. So to be able to offer a workshop here in a space that is filled with the remembrance of Allah, like it gives it a special feel than a typical workshop that I've done. And inshallah, I'm looking forward to facilitating more workshops here too, but being in the presence of this space where people are seeking knowledge, seeking connection, it sort of combines that deen and dunya aspect, if that makes sense. The workshop that I did was about self-care, and it was called Filling Your Cup. So we talked about like different things that can get in the way of taking care of ourselves, and then how we can overcome those barriers to better care for ourselves, to be a better, worshiper, to have the energy to fulfill your obligations. So it was a very intimate workshop, and it was very, I feel like, very fruitful. Alhamdulillah. I feel like I benefited as much as the participants hopefully benefited too. And then inshallah in December I will also be doing another workshop sort of talking about how we can work through the seasonal sadness that comes up here in Minnesota. It gets very cold. So what are ways that we can sort of help improve our mood to make it through those winter months? And then I will also be co-facilitating a parent group here, a group for mothers as well, inshallah. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really excited for the classes that will be offered. I'm sure there will be a variety, not only for myself, but for my kids as well. I think it's great that we can all come here and benefit. And I'm hoping also to not only take and receive the knowledge, but to also give back what in forms of like workshops or seminars, so to also be able to utilize that space too, inshallah. I think Rabata, so we have, alhamdulillah, we have like a lot of Islamic centers in Minnesota, but I feel like what Rabata offers is something different. And I know how it lives by its vision of creating positive cultural change, and I think it does that in the space that it provides, in the offerings that are available here. There is a shift in what a lot of us grew up knowing Islamic spaces to be, and to actually see it differently here. That shift is happening, and I think as we're learning, as we're using this space, a lot of us will be facilitators in that cultural change. So I think that's what's different. We're not only receiving it, but we're also giving back to our communities and making that shift too. I feel like there is a culture, like outside of our individual cultures, there's a culture of religion too. And we have traditions. And sometimes maybe what we're taught isn't the most positive, maybe I would say, or like we're taught in a way that removes that positivity. I think that's a better way to put it. And here it's embedded back, like the joy in the deen, the joy in learning, the joy in ritual worship, like that joy is embedded back. And when we're practicing that I think is shown in like our character, our mannerisms. So it makes that shift in culture to something that is much more positive and much more aligned, I think, with our true purpose. So that's how I envision it. So it's a very positive impact to be able to come to a bookstore with your children. So I have 2 girls and a boy, but to know that my son can also come here and they can get books that the kids look like them, they have names that they're accustomed to. I think that fosters like a higher self-esteem for the kids, like a confidence to like see yourself represented in what you're reading. Prior to this, like we were getting books from the library or like we're getting books from online, and while we still do that, it's supplemented with books that are more that have topics that they can connect with, and also on topics that are relevant to them. So books about the Prophet ﷺ's prayers, books about children learning to fast. Like, these are milestones that they're going through, and kids learn a lot through reading. So being able to find a book and be like, hey, we're going to read this to, teach this lesson, that's a blessing. I hope that because they have been exposed and immersed in this space, that it strengthens their connection to their deen. It fosters a strong Islamic identity, because they have this space where they can learn that they're surrounded by strong Muslim women. I hope that that gives them sort of that resilience and that strength to know that they come from a long line of empowered and strong Muslim women, and that they can carry forth that tradition. And I know that's like a very big goal, but I think this space really facilitates that. And because they are younger, to like have that at the beginning, I think that's a blessing. That's something that we all wanted growing up. So, and it's a blessing from Allah for them to be able to have that so young.